robot.
Thank you. I made it myself.
The Electric State is beautiful.
It reimagines 1990 America.
Robot protests demand a strong response.
I love anything to do with the 90s.
Bots and humans fighting against the real enemy.
It's in a lot of ways an anti-technology journey.
A journey you will never forget.
Welcome back to State Secrets, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of the Russo brothers' newest film, The Electric State, available now on Netflix. I'm your host, Francesca Amaker, and in today's episode, we're diving deep into the world of visual design with episode 3, The Secret to Building a Retro Future. If you've seen the breathtaking imagery in The Electric State, you know that the movie blends advanced technology with a 1990s-inspired retro-futuristic landscape. And today, we'll uncover how the filmmakers brought Simon Stålenhag's stunning illustrations to life, transforming two-dimensional images into a fully realized immersive world. Joining me are some of the most brilliant minds behind the visuals. We'll explore how they created this haunting yet beautiful retro future, the balance between practical effects and CGI, and the challenges of designing robots with personality.
I'd tip my hat, but, it's bolted on.
Let's start by talking with the Russo brothers about how this unique world began to take shape. Would you say it's more of a challenge to create a film adaptation for a graphic novel versus a conventional novel? And the reason why I ask this is because for a graphic novel, you have this fan base that already knows what the characters or what the scene should look like.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean,
you have the strength of the visuals in a graphic novel, which I think can be very helpful, especially if it's from a distinctive artist like Simone.
yeah. If we decide to use a piece of art or writing to inspire us to tell a story, it's because we love it and we're moved by it. And so we have like a fidelity to what is in there and what is special about it. That's where we sort of do right by other fans of that material, is that we share that same love of it.
Anthony, I see what you're doing there. You just won over a bunch of the Electric State fans because so many people are excited to see your adaptation to this. I want to know, did any other influences contribute to the look and the feel of this piece of art?
Yeah, the movie's got I think the movie tries to be subtle in its placement in that period, so it doesn't pull you out. We love the concept of the movie being period because it's talking about a lot of really complex themes about technology that we're all running headfirst into right now. And so sometimes a little bit of distance from that, allows you to process it. Millie's character goes on a really interesting journey.
If you don't have anyone, then come find us. Because we're starting over.
In a lot of ways, an anti-technology journey. And, we're all staring at our phones all day long. And, a lot of that stuff is wrapped up in the film, but presented in a way that we feel is a little bit more palatable because it's period, to really softly set it there without it distracting you.
Tell us about the Happy Land set.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, we have the most incredible production designer, Dennis Gassner. I mean, he's a legend. And 6 Oscar nominations, and he just did an amazing job in this film. And that Happy Land set is a critical point in the film. It's a big action set piece, a key piece of plot, key characters discovered there.
Tell me what you did with my brother.
We knew that it was going to be important from a design standpoint, and we took over a parking lot in Atlanta and rebuilt part of a theme park and played out those scenes.
How did you all ensure that everyone was on the same page? How did you make sure everyone was working for that common goal, that common vision?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we have a leg up with that in the sense that the entire process kind of begins with us being able to share with one another.
Yeah.
So we just kind of take that process that's happening between us and we extend it to everybody who's working with us. It's having a lot of respect for people in the process and making sure everybody's heard, but also at the same time that everybody's working toward the same goal. I think that's one reason why we work with so many people over and over again through the years, is that once you start to develop a rhythm with somebody, it just becomes very powerful in terms of continuing that process.
It starts at the top with the Russos thank you guys so much. This is just, listen, no one wants to have to work for a living, but if you do, what a hell of a way to do it.
After hearing from the brilliant minds behind the story of the Electric State, let's shift our focus now to the team responsible for bringing that vision to life on screen. Joining us now is the production designer, Dennis Gassner, who, along with his incredible team, transformed the writer's imaginative world into a more tangible, visually stunning reality. You have come up with some pretty iconic worlds. What were your initial thoughts when the Russo brothers came to you and said, "We want you to create this world of the Electric State"?
Well, it was our second film together, and I was excited about it. All films are exciting when there's there's something to create. I liked the graphic novel, and that was really important. It was a good guide to help us kind of move forward with it.
The graphic novel that you speak of, this 90s-inspired retro future, there is so much to chew on. Walk me through your creative process.
Well, Simon created a lot of interesting characters that we nurtured. We designed about 175 robots in the course of doing this film, along with, of course, all the locations and environments. We kind of homaged the book a little bit, because Simon had gone on to this, in this journey, and I've gone on many journeys the same way. You end up traveling to go try and find something, and so it was fun to kind of be part of his journey.
I could just imagine being a fly on the wall for the creative process between you and the Russo brothers. So what were some of the themes that they emphasized with you as you all were mapping out this graphic novel and the movie?
Well, it always starts with the script, so that was the big thing, was developing a script that kind of connected all the dots within the book. And that was the key for me, was story. It's always the key for me. I need to know who the characters are, what the characters need to do. And so that way I can design for the characters. Of course, then we developed, the robots. So the story eventually evolved out of that gestation of creating. I always say it's a great meal.
Pizza?
Well, of course, it's a Russo film.
Of course. Talk me through your creative process and your creative approach to making sure that we felt the 90s feel, the nostalgia of it, but also this futuristic approach as well. How did you make that happen and come alive?
I have no idea.
Like, it's just in these hands.
You feel your way through it. I've worked with. I've done 40 films. I've worked with a lot of interesting people in my life, and you end up having kind of refer to all of the great knowledge that you've acquired over these years. And so we wanted to do something that had its own signature. And so every time you take that task on, it makes it really exciting.
Take me to one of your favorite scenes. What was a scene that you really enjoyed and played with those two juxtapositions of eeriness and wonderment?
Well, there's a little funny story. At one point, the rubber duckies were going to be kind of, well, do we need them in the film? And I said, listen, if the rubber duckies aren't in this movie, I'm going to quit.
How'd you threaten the job over the rubber duckies?
I said, it's probably not, I'll never get to say that again in my entire life.
What do they do with people?
I never stuck around long enough to find out. You gave me a whole new chance, haven't you? Now that you've buried my life under a mountain.
Hey, my brother needed me. I'm not sorry we're here.
To bring the retro-futuristic world of the Electric State to life, every detail had to feel grounded yet futuristic, from the design of the sets to the technology imagined for this alternate reality. But the robots, they were essential. They needed to feel both familiar and integrated into this world as real, functional beings. Up next, I'm talking with animation supervisor Liz Bernard, who led the challenge of animating these robots to feel realistic and even relatable. She'll walk us through how her team achieved that perfect blend of machine and humanity. Liz, so good to see you.
Hi.
What excited you about working on this film?
It's huge. It's a huge film, right? I think we have something like 100 different robots that we're animating on this movie, it's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. What excited me when I first found out I was going to be on this project was the book, right? The book is gorgeous and it has the most spectacular art. And it's really inspiring. It's like each one of these frames, images on the page, sort of tells its own story, and you can imagine what the backstory of the characters would be. And then, of course, we get to animate everything on this movie from like a 3-story cat robot all the way down to like a little teeny tiny robot that's shaped like a honey bear that you would buy at the grocery store. And everything in between. We get, pathos, we get thrills, we get chills, we get comedy, we get like deep, deep emotion. So the variety is super exciting on this project.
Prepare yourselves to witness the wonderment, to behold the beguiling, to perceive the prodigious prestidigitations of Perplexo.
I love how you attack this as, something new for you to discover in the animation process. What was the biggest challenge, though, for you?
The biggest challenge, it's always tough finding a way to make characters that are CG look real right next to humans, right? That's always tough. And I think on a project like this, we're also trying to imbue these characters with both personality, but also kind of the restrictions that come from being built like a robot. Oh. Right? If you've got a joint that can only go in one axis and you can't like roll it all around like a human can, what does that mean for performance? How does that turn into part of the character?
I want to know, was one easier than the other? Seeing these animations and these human characters together in a more intimate scene versus seeing all of these robots together in more of a big animation scene. What was the process for both of those?
I think they're both really difficult and both really rewarding. I feel like with action sequences versus like intimate sequences, they have some big similarities. You're still trying to find the best way to tell this story through relationships, right? And so we've got a great fight sequence between two of the main characters. And at the end of the day, it's not really about the fight sequence. It's more about the power dynamic between the two of them.
Well, but isn't the king of misfit toys?
No kings here. Our people are free.
It's still sort of a conversation between two characters, but it's more of a bodily conversation than, something that with just dialogue. As far as like the big sequences go, we also did a big chunk of the sequence in the mall where Mr. Peanut is walking you around.
When I tell you I loved that sequence right there because it really brought you back to that nostalgia. It made you feel like you were in one of those malls or an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, totally.
Why in the hell would Center steal a little boy?
I know, it's nuts. No offense.
Get it all the time.
With the mall, we ended up spending quite a lot of time developing individual personalities for each one of those robots.
All right, then. Tighten your guts and loosen your nuts. We've got scabs to kill.
Oh, boy.
Some of them, we don't even really spend a lot of time with them in the movie, but I basically had to assign out each character to an individual animator and said, go to town, put your own personality into it, see what you can come up with. And that was so fun to see everybody's personalities come out in these individual animations that they were doing for these big crowd scenes. This is each character has its own limitations in its body design. It has its own desires and interests. And we could put all of that in there by utilizing all of the creativity from my animation team.
To bring the unique world of the Electric State to life, the film's costume design plays a crucial role in bridging the high-tech elements with a nostalgic, retro 90s aesthetic. Costume designer Judiana Makovsky crafted looks that feel rooted in that time period, yet seamlessly belong to this imagined future. Let's jump into how she struck that balance and brought such a unique visual texture to the film's universe. You did your big one with this one. Good to see you.
It was fun. Good to see you. It was a lot of fun.
When you're looking at a script like The Electric State, what immediately jumps out at you? Where do you start?
Well, luckily for us on this one, the images in the book, the original illustrated novel, are so beautiful that we actually started there.
So many worlds to choose from. And you had retro 90s, you had nostalgia, and then there was this futuristic 90s as well. How did your team go about balancing the two and making sure that there was a clear distinction?
We wanted it not to be complicated. I think simple was the way to go, so that the people in this film don't have a lot of changes. It takes place over a short period of time. So that's almost harder to do, because if you only have one or two outfits, it better be right. And there's a progression and how those work through a whole film. You had to keep it in a house, out on the road, in a mine, in, different things. And then you wanted it different from the world of Center. So it's just, keeping the rules very simple, I think. And also letting the actors show through. I have a thing about pull back the clothes so you can actually see the actors and watch the film.
It's 100,000 square miles out there. Chances of finding them are pretty slim.
Chances of finding him in here are zero.
The chances of not dying in here are pretty high. You can't go out in the X after dark. I mean, listen, you're just gonna have to trust me.
I want you to talk about how you were able to demonstrate the evolution on her character. We saw her in a flashback, and she's clean cut, proper, not grunge at all.
No.
And then now we see her living with her stepfather.
What are you doing?
Going to class?
You need an after-school activity. Child Services says they'll pay extra for student enrichment.
But I feel so enriched already, Ted.
That evolution, what's that thought process like?
Well, I think, her family has died. She's miserable. She's in a horrible home. We always figured she probably shopped at a thrift store. Frankly, she's wearing a shirt through the whole movie. I think we got it at, where did we get it? JCPenney? There's nothing glamorous in her clothes. There's no fashion labels. There's no, she wears Doc Martens,
Can you do anything about that? Please don't be a psycho.
One other great actor that I enjoyed in this film, Chris Pratt. I saw him like I've never seen him before. How'd you do that?
Can I tell you how much fun it was to work with Chris? I have worked with Chris before, obviously, on Guardians of the Galaxy, and we just wanted to turn Chris into something he hasn't been before. And it was so much fun to go there. Just working with his hair, giving him that mustache.
And that's how you act.
The first time we put it on, he doesn't actually look goofy. He actually looks really handsome in it.
Okay, Juliana.
It's yeah.
Give me 3 key items that are essential to achieving a retro and futuristic 90s look.
If you're talking about the world of Millie, it's definitely like a pair of Doc Martens or a pair of Converse. Hers were hand-painted. You make them your own. Probably a flannel shirt tied around your waist or a big oversized jean jacket. If you're going, more towards the Century look, it's very clean, beautiful fabrics, beautiful cut. There was an Armani look, but with a little bit of period, almost 30s eyeglasses or something thrown in. So you've got that mixture that's very 90s. I think that would be my picks.
Love the use of old and new, old and new. Juliana Makovsky, thank you so much for taking the time. Costume designer extraordinaire on The Electric State. Now let's turn to the 2 people who brought that story to life on screen. Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt. Let's talk nostalgia. You weren't even born in the 90s. You weren't even here. How did you connect, and what was your favorite part about playing this role?
I love anything to do with the 90s. I was very, very excited. So yeah, I remember actually I was thinking about my makeup for the film, and I found a lip liner, and it was 1994. and it was called 1994, and I was like, I'm gonna have to take it. And like, it's like this dusty brown. And I just remember thinking to myself, I love the makeup, I love the hair, I love the style. Like, maybe Michelle wouldn't have been the way I would have dressed. Like, I maybe wouldn't have had like the long blonde, but like, I would definitely would be like 90s supermodel. Like, I'm obsessed.
You were born obviously in the 90s, so I have to ask you.
You were definitely not born in the 90s.
I had been born
You mentioned-
by the time the 90s came around.
You were like what, like 20?
79.
Oh.
Yeah.
You mentioned
79.
Big Mouth Bass, G.I.
1979.
Oh.
19.
Oh, I was saying you were 20 in the 90s.
Oh, in the 90s? No, I graduated high school in 97.
Oh.
So I was.
Oh, you were young.
I was a kid growing up through the 90s.
What were your favorite things from the 90s? And did you think about them while you were filming the movie, like the G.I. Joe and the Big Mouth Bass?
Of course. Like, it was not all that dissimilar to when I was doing Guardians of the Galaxy and creating this character, Peter Quill. I was able to mine many of the pop culture references of my own childhood and use it to build this character. The Keats character is not so much a character built in the 90s as much as he would have been a character built in the 70s and 80s. And so I was really basing the character loosely on a guy who was my neighbor growing up named Kenny, and he had long blonde hair, and this dude used to jam on his guitar, jumping on a mini trampoline in like zebra striped stretch pants. Like, we'd have water balloon fights, and he was just the coolest dude in the world. And so when I was building Keats, I was definitely basing it on what I thought of Kenny. That was the dude for me.
Wow, I have never heard that story.
Yeah, Kenny. Big American here. I'm stunned that you would think I'm harboring robots. In fact, I would go so far as to say, I'm shocked.
What an incredible journey through the visual world of the Electric State. From the fusion of retro 90s elements with the future to the detailed animation and motion capture that gave life to the robots. It's clear that every corner of this world was crafted with love and precision. Thank you to all our guests for sharing the secrets behind building this stunning retro future. Join us next time for more behind-the-scenes insights on the making of the Electric State as we explore the secret to bonding with a robot. Until then, stay curious. I'm your host, Francesca Amaker. State Secrets Inside the Making of the Electric State is a production of Netflix and Treefort Media. From Netflix, our executive producers are Catherine Hugh and Ray Vada. For Treefort Media, our executive producer is Kelly Garner. Our series producer is Mary Chalenza. Our co-producer is Lisa Ammerman. Our lead editor is Martin Applebaum, engineered by Matt Dyson, and our associate producer is Aidan Brooks. Special thanks to Marianne Coltai-Levine, Sarah Caruso, Sophia Russo, and the rest of the team at Agbo Films. Be sure to check out Joe and Anthony Russo's video podcast, Pizza Film School, and listen to more from Netflix podcasts available wherever you get your podcasts.